So this is South Africa. The Dutch, the VOC in particular, landed here and created a colony in 1652. Now, the main point of them being here was that it was the perfect layover for ships to restock their food sources before they continued on into deeper Asia for trade. Since then, it's changed hands, then the British took it over, but in terms of linguistics, you can really see that the Dutch had a pretty permanent impact on South Africa. Afrikaans has since changed so much that it's considered its very own language, its own grammar structures, its own vocabulary terms, but is very much recognized as a sort of sister language of Dutch. Currently, as it stands, there are two main theories about the Dutch language being in South Africa. The first main theory is that the language was left behind by the Dutch during their colonization and that Afrikaans is a direct mutation from that language. The second theory is more that Afrikaans developed through a Creole language, so from slaves and laborers and a mixed pot of cultures coming together to pull bits of Dutch and create their own language with Dutch roots, when they were essentially attempting to learn the Dutch that was spoken by the VOC's settlers that were living there. To bring all of these cultures and languages together, it was such a mixed pot of influences at that time. You had a lot of people from a variety of backgrounds trying to learn Dutch to communicate and live in that area during the time. So the local Cohesi people learning Dutch as a second language. Then you had an entire group of people imported to work as slaves that were brought from all different parts of Africa at that time. So you had all of those people learning Dutch as a second language. There were also people from Europe who started immigrating to South Africa. So you had a whole nother group of people who, again, were learning Dutch as a second language. There was also a mix of Asian slaves, mostly from Indonesia and Malaysia, whose language is Bahasa. And again, they were learning Dutch as a second language. So I think this second theory of this new version of Dutch being created and kind of mutating based on the influences that it had at the time seems quite plausible. With such a crazy mixed pot of languages and cultures, it's kind of also just as crazy to think that Afrikaans and Dutch are technically still mutually intelligible. I'm surprised that the language didn't change more with all of these outsider influences. Everyone had varying levels of being able to understand the Dutch language, but they were all kind of communicating with each other in their own way. Now, the last time I did one of these experiments, I was told that the Frisian example that I used was very Dutchified. So I have tried to find a very natural piece of Afrikaans to listen to make sure that I have a good example and a good idea of if I can understand it or not. I like doing these experiments. I think it's really fun to see if my knowledge in one language can kind of be transferred and help me out learning other languages or understanding other cultures too. So now that we have a really very loose idea of how Afrikaans has developed from Dutch, I want to see if I can understand still what they're saying. So it has been difficult to try and find a short video of someone speaking Afrikaans that is clear to understand, that I can actually hear what they're saying and there's no background noise. But I have found this short video on YouTube and I will link it down below. It is a woman who is speaking Afrikaans in Canada, from what I can tell on the video description. So let's give it a listen and see if I can understand what she's saying. Now, before we get into the video, I want to talk about our sponsor for today's video, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform for creatives and people who love learning online. Some of the classes that Skillshare offer are things like UX and UI design, logo design, graphic design, painting, watercolors. The list is literally endless. They have so many options and such high level classes available on there. So there's one particular class that I want to draw attention to that I found on Skillshare this last month. It's called Creative Leadership Toolkit by John Meter. And he is a designer and he talks about his role and his development as a designer. And I found this class incredibly insightful. I've just started a new job that has a lot of design elements. And I feel like being new in the industry, this class really gave me, I think, a good foundation for what I was looking for. My favorite thing about Skillshare is that there's no ads and you don't have to sift through a million YouTube tutorials that are terrible. The standard is very high. One of the things that distinguishes Skillshare from YouTube is that you have this really interactive aspect of the classes. So you can do the class projects and put your work up onto the community, and other people who have also taken the class can comment. You can comment with each other, and it makes for a very good learning experience rather than just watching a YouTube video. There's also classes offered at a different levels of skill sets, so they range from beginner all the way through to professionals. So you get all of this with Skillshare, and you can get a premium subscription for less than $10 a month. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click on the link in the description will get a free trial of the premium membership, so you can explore all of these classes yourself. Now let's jump into the rest of the video.
Die vraag is, kan ek Afrikaans praat? Daar is baie van julle wat vir my vra of ek Afrikaans kan praat. My van is van die kerk. Ek is soos in baie
van die kerk. The question is can she speak Afrikaans? I feel like that's literally all I've understood so far. I might get more context as the video goes on.
Baie Engels, hoor? Maar ek was op skool by Stellenberg Hoërskool in die Kaap.
So she was at school by the name of the school.
Daar in Stellenberg, dis in Bellville, Durbanville area. En 90% van die
area, I'm assuming that means area, whereas in Dutch you say gebied. So area, that sounds very English to me, obviously.
Die kinders daar was eintlik Afrikaans op daai dae gewees. So daar was baie min Engelse en baie van my vriende was Afrikaans gewees en toe het ek sommer baie Afrikaans gepraat en ek het ook by
two of her friends spoke Afrikaans, and she would speak Afrikaans with them, but there was something about English that I think she speaks English at home, but she would speak Afrikaans with her friends at this school.
SFW Distel gewerk. En dis baie Afrikaans.
Is baie like very? Baie. I feel like the way she says it, baie Afrikaans and baie Engels. Very Afrikaans? So that was very Afrikaans.
So ek het daar ek milies gegooi met die taal. En weet jy, in Canada, ek het 2 of 3 vriende wat
And you know what? In Canada, ek het 2
Afrikaans praat. En as ons by mekaar kom, dan wil ons sommer net Afrikaans gooi die hele tyd en dit is so lekker vir my.
I think she's saying every now and then she comes across someone in Canada that can also speak Afrikaans, and that she finds it really lekker. She finds it really enjoyable to speak the language again.
Vir my, ek verlang na die taal en
ek verlang. Yeah, I yearn for the language.
Ja, van my vriende, as ons by mekaar kom, nee, dan die Canadians, dan wil hulle weet wat praat ons. As ons nou Afrikaans praat, dan sê ons vir hulle, nee, ons praat maar Afrikaans. Dis ons ander taal in Suid-Afrika, en dan sê hulle, is dit African? Oh, it sounds so nice, African. Dan sê ons, nee, dis nie African nie. African tale is soos in isiXhosa, soos in Ndingakngayarangantoni, soos in daai. En
is she also speaking a different language here? What's the one? Xhosa?
dan lag ons so vir mekaar en nou die dag toe amper piepie ek in my
So the Canadians are thinking that when she says I speak Afrikaans, that they think not Afrikaans, like the descendant of Dutch, but like an African language. And she's saying, no, an African language would be like the Xhosa language. And then I think she gave a few examples of that. Afrikaans is another language on its own.
piepie ek in my broekie. En ons is by die kerk gewees en toe
And also when they say not, she says nie, not neat. Like they drop, it sounds like they're dropping a lot of the end sounds.
staan Henry op, hy's 'n Suid-Afrikaner, dan welkom hy almal en hy sê hello to all the Canadians, just want to welcome everybody at church today, it's so nice to see you, maar welkom julle almal Suid-Afrikaners in my hart. Ek wil sommer net
Giving examples of what someone would say in English and then what they would actually say to the South African people that are in the audience. So like that they're welcoming the people with their heart. I feel like that sounded very standard Dutch. There was all the same words.
huil en dit was seker die tweede week wat ons in Kanada gewees het of geland het, gekom het, arrived, whatever, sien jy, out of sight, out of mind, dan ek kan nie aan die woorde dink nie. En
She's saying that she doesn't speak it enough and forgets words. I feel like I'm losing the conversation a bit.
ja, ek mis my Afrikaans.
Ja, ek mis mijn Afrikaans. She misses the language.
Maar ek kan Afrikaans praat, maar die res gaan seker Engels wees. Maar lief julle.
Okay. I think I was picking up most of the conversation. I think that a lot of it is like a difference of pronunciation. I kind of noticed that they drop a lot of the end sounds. And depending on which part of the Netherlands you're in, they also do that here. So that's not anything new. I think that's just getting used to a new accent. In terms of like structure though, a lot of the verbs were at the end like they do in Dutch. So I feel like that was kind of easy. And there was like a very clear mix of like English words coming in, like area for gebied. So I'm going to say that I can understand it. I feel like that's more than what I think my mum would be able to understand. And that's purely based off the Dutch that I've learned. So yeah, I feel like that kind of went really well. If you have corrections, if you are from South Africa, please let me know in the comments below how I did. Let me know any other languages you'd like to see that I can understand just learning Dutch and English. I feel like maybe German might be another option, but I love doing these videos. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.